started. Seems like we're slowing down a little bit on admissions. Just want to point out that this webinar is being recorded today, and that we will allow some time for live Q&A. Please join us either in the chat box within Teams, or at the end of the session, you can unmute your microphone and ask live questions as well. My name is Jared Adams. I'm in Friedrich Product Management. I will be the moderator today. So if you type questions into the chat area, I'll make sure that those get sent over to our presenter and myself at the end, and we'll make sure we get those questions answered for you. Chris, if you want to advance to the next slide, please. Just want to let everybody know that your microphones have been placed on mute by us on the moderator side. So if at any time you do need to unmute or ask a question, simply highlight your cursor over your screen and you'll see your Teams menu pop up, which will allow you to unmute your microphone or enter questions through the group chat feature or conversation feature. Today's webinar is on our Vert-I-Pak product. It is basic installation and service. Our presenter today is our regional technical manager from the Southeast, Mr. Chris Palmer. And Chris, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. Gentlemen, ladies, attendees, thanks for taking your time out today to sit with us here and go over some Vert-I-Pak information. And we will continue on with the next slide. Today's agenda is going to be open for discussion of product line overview, installation, accessibility of the unit, wiring, piping, and ductwork connections, also some code compliance, service and repair, troubleshooting, some industry tools that we recommend having on hand when we're servicing and doing some troubleshooting with the equipment, training opportunities, and finally, as Jared mentioned, some question and answer time at the end. What is a Vert-I-Pak? Commonly known as a vertical packaged product. The vertical PTAC or VPAK. It's an AHRI standard single packaged vertical unit. By definition, a Vert-I-Pak is a ducted and closet mounted HVAC package system. Friedrich pioneered the SPVU category and today demonstrates the consistent innovation and technological leadership. Vert-I-Pak eliminates the need for multiple through-the-wall units. The Vert-I-Pak unit is installed out of sight so guests can enjoy a more attractive home-like appearance. A quiet, energy-efficient option for suites, extended stay properties, assisted living homes, student housing. The Vert-I-Pak heat pump is also available in capacities ranging from 9,300 BTUs to 22,500 BTUs. As you see here from our 2020 product line efficiencies and capacities, we start off with a VHA 09K all the way up to a VHA 24R. The R stands for 265 volt, and the K from our nomenclature is for 208, 230 volt. The product line electrical data for the VHA 09, or 09, I should say, and the VHA 12. These are the models listed here. VHA 09K, VHA 12K, and then the electrical data rated for the VHA 09R and the VHA 12R. As you see here on our specs here, we have the wiring sizes and circuit amps rated here as well. As you can see, branch circuit fuse amp sizes, and the listed and recommended heater sizes that come with the rating for the breaker size and the wire size all in one column for easy matched accessibility. Continuing on with the VHA 18 and the VHA 24. All of this literature is in our brochures and in our IOM information. And right on to the VTech installation service and repair overview. Let me know if I'm moving too fast for anybody. You can slow it down a little bit. And if I mic out or if my internet connection breaks up, please let me know. Or text in the chat box. Accessibility of the unit and wiring, piping, ductwork connections, and code compliance. What makes an ideal installation? A clean and accessible closet, good airflow to the return, proper training via technician or building contractor, making sure that we have all the materials on hand and that we're ready to go and ready to use, a trained technician, knowledge of the equipment specifications and restrictions, placement of the unit for accessible service repairs, any unique job site conditions. This is always a good one here because not every construction site or building or design or engineering application is always the same. Although the through-the-wall application and installation is basically the same. Am I breaking up?
Nope, you're okay.
Okay. Unique job site conditions, sometimes local codes and things like that do create some unique job site conditions that do affect the overall installation and operation of the equipment. So that's an interesting topic to have on the list for today. And then, this will be open for discussion as far as any ideas or recommendations that you've had personally or you've seen out in the field. We always welcome the good feedback from the field, which can be put in the chat box or opened up for discussion at the end of the presentation. And all of the above. All of these things factor into a good ideal installation and successful implementation of the VPAK unit. Installation overview. We want to make sure we identify the unit you're installing, making sure that you select the unit's location and clearances, although sometimes that's already pre-done for you. The building's already been engineered, designed, architect specs have already been accommodated for. But in the event that you have a change out or something like that, sometimes at that time it's a good idea to update the code requirements and equipment sizing and specifications at that time. Making sure that you do engineer and design your closets to the correct size based on our recommended instructions in the IOM. And then first step in installing the wall plenum, you'll see in our IOM on page 13 through 17 on proper wall plenum installation. Then the installation of the louvered grill, as well as the adjusted divider, following on page 18. The install of the unit, then making the final and hopefully complete ductwork connections of the 10-inch supply flex duct, and then moving right along with the electrical line voltage wires and proper circuit breaker sizing and installation. And then moving on to installing thermostat and low voltage wiring. And we also have the wireless option and energy management systems to go along with that. And then installation of the drain connections and final check on the overall installation of the individual unit. Some installation considerations with regarding to new construction. All the units will need to be within the height, will need to install within the height between the finished floor and the platform, 3/4 of an inch below the base of the rough exterior opening. That's a critical measurement to remember because you don't want to install it too high or too low so that the unit doesn't slide into the plenum, and that making sure that the unit fits comfortably against the rubber gasket without tearing it or kinking it or pinching it or damaging it altogether. The retrofit installation large chassis installation will require a 3/4 inch increase of the platform height. So if you're changing out an existing VPAK with the newer design model, you will have to adjust the platform, whether or not you're using an adjustable platform or if you had to support it in some other way. Then the new VH18 and the VH24 does require the VPDP2. Say that 5 times fast. That's a drain pan that would now install on the right-hand corner versus the VDP1, which used to install on the left-hand side. That drain pan will also allow you, just like the VDP1, to either pipe it connections to the left or to the right based on your plumbing orientation. So that still is a viable option, just that the location of the drain on the unit has moved from the left side of the bottom pan to the right side of the bottom pan on the replacement models. That's a key feature to remember when changing out old models to new models and new construction applications as well. Some other additional installation considerations for replacement of the 9,000 BTU unit. The legacy VEA-09 and VHA-09, moving to the VHA-09 RTP. The physical installation can be identical to the previous pieces of equipment. However, care should be taken to make sure that the maximum breaker size requirements, MOCP, on the piece of equipment are met. This shouldn't be an issue if the electrical heater size of the new unit is being replaced or is replacing the same size as the previous unit. If you're upsizing the heater size, you would need to make sure that the correct orientation and sizing of the wire size as well as the breaker size is appropriate to match. And then here's an example image of the different louver and plenum pieces, starting with the louver on the outside of the building, the outside wall plenum sleeve, the example of the outside exterior wall with the proper hole cut into it, and then the inside wall plenum sleeve, which would slide into and be sealed against the drywall on this side, and then your sheathing on the outside, or whatever your finished material is for your outside exterior wall. And then finally, the placement of the unit into the sleeve. Now, be mindful that we do have two different wall plenum sizes that can go up to 14 inches in wall depth. So when ordering those plenum kits, to make sure you size those appropriately for, oh, I slipped ahead here. Sorry, my apologies, still stuck on 09. That the VPA WP1 8 and then the VPA WP1 to 14. So that those two plenum pieces do slide back and forth between each other and can be sealed appropriately with the appropriate silicone and screws, fasteners, to make sure that they seal tight against the wall exterior and the inside wall drywall. VEA-12 or VHA-12, converting to a VHA-12 RTP. Once again, same recommendations, making sure that your breaker sizes are appropriate and that your wire size is appropriate based on the heater size. The VHA-18 and the VEA-18 RTP, the platform height will not need to change. In addition, the additional of the VDP2, which was mentioned earlier, from the VDP1 would be required. Moving the pan from the left-hand side of the base of the plenum to the right-hand side, as well as replacing the gasket or replacing or repairing the piece of gasket taken off from the right side and implementing it and sealing it against the left-hand side where the previous drain pan was removed. The original gasket can be reused if it is in good condition, but we do offer the gasket as a whole piece to replace altogether if necessary. Care should be taken once again to make sure that breaker sizes requirements are appropriate, and that it shouldn't be an issue once again if the heater sizing has been taken into account ahead of time. Now here on the legacy VEA-24 or the VHA-24 or older, converting to a VHA-24 RTP. The platform here in this case is the consideration of being raised 3/4 of an inch. That is recommended to be used a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. However, some local codes don't accept plywood as an alternative. So other sources of alternative supporting may have to be based on local code requirements. You your local code requirements and your inspectors more directly and what they are willing to accept. So that is something to be considered here in the future. But our recommendation is that a 3/4 inch piece of plywood be used on the existing floor to raise up the platform, and that should be adequate enough for the installation. And there is an overall height increase of 4 inches to a total height of 52 inches. And that the existing VDP1 and the gasket at the base of the plenum will be removed. And the new VDP2 will be installed to the right side as the other in the 18 version. And that similar recommendations for sealing and replacing the gasket are as follows. The supply air opening has changed from a 10-inch round to a rectangular discharge. So that would require some ductwork modifications in that respect. Whether or not you can go from a transition piece to a round collar connector, or however it would be previously applied to making that connection. And then once again, the breaker size and the appropriate size wire and connections based on the heater size. There are other considerations. Care should always be given when framing the building or framing the closet as well, but mostly for the rough opening and making sure that the plenum is sealed properly to prevent any air infiltration and any other, making sure the whole opening is square, making sure that the unit will fit properly and level. All units will be will need a platform finish or be off the finished floor, the 3/4 of an inch exterior roughening based on the new models. Take care when allowing the use of non-standard louver. Oftentimes it's a good idea to run by our product management team to make sure that the opening sizes of the louvers meet the qualifications so that there's no maximum combined pressure drop of the units of 0.12 water column, or this will create a high head pressure or create restrictions and failures of the operation of the equipment will increase. We can oftentimes look over the numbers for you or with you to make sure that those louvers and grills based on local code requirements or engineering specifications meet the operational capability of the Vert-I-Pak. And we'll be happy to help you out with those along the way as those projects come up and come across our table. More importantly, this is a common one that often is questioned. Installation and serviceability, we recommend 3 inches on all sides. The required 4 to 6 inches should be recommended on the side for the plumbing connections or your condensate drain connections to allow for the PVC piping, to make sure that there's enough room for the piping once you close the closet door or that you have service access to it. That's a critical measurement there in that regard as far as being able to make appropriate consideration for the drain connections. And then here at the top of the right-hand page, we're reading down. Any measures that will help sound actuation should be considered as well. Installing the orientation of the access panels. Closet construction, making sure that there's insulated closet walls sometimes helps keep the unit quiet. And depending on which closet enclosure door you use, to keeping the sound inside the closet as best you can outside of the guest room. Take note that both the sensible and latent requirements of each unit of unique application, oversizing in a humid environment or undersizing in a hot, dry environment can lead to non-ideal room conditions. Equipment size and basically our heat load calculations are critical in making the choices of choosing which equipment we want to use in the application. Most of the VTECs work best in conditions where the overall external static pressure, or ESP, is 0.3 inches or below. Anything greater, and you could risk freezing the evaporator coil, creating overheating issues, air restrictions, and heat limits when heating. And also, be mindful of this. The electric heat on the 208, 230 models is rated at the 230 volt. If you do supply voltage at the 208 mark, you will derate the heat output. So when you're sizing your heater and your units, make sure that you correctly account for the derated value of the electric heater based on the supply voltage. That's a critical measurement that sometimes is often overlooked. Now for service and repair. Service and repair category would consist of some troubleshooting, some basic tools, and overall training opportunities. And we have here rolling into some photos of job sites that actually are out in the field. As we can see here in this image, it's a full service front installation. The thermostat is close by for easy access and control of the unit. And we can see a nice clean straight ductwork connection. And wiring comes in on the right hand side. This is that same picture with the door removed. You can see here the drain line connection at the bottom with the support platform and your air filter in place. This is a VHA 18 model. With the door panel removed, oftentimes you're able to access the inside of the blower compartment or the condenser section. Condenser coil can be washed carefully without damaging the plastic from inside to out, without removing the unit from the closet. That's something that's often challenging with limited closet access. But in this case, in this particular installation with the front access, you can get to that coil, you can get to that condenser fan motor and wheel, and all of the other components that are in that lower compartment, as seen here from this close-up image. This is a view of the back of the unit that shows our blue diamond coating on our coils, which is our seacoast protection. This also shows the back side of the image with our First Company sleeve adapter, which is available in our 09 and 12 model units. Which leads us into the pictures above. Textbook installation with the VPA SA1. As you can see here, this is the VTAC with the First Company sleeve adapter, and then this is the platform. This is an existing First Company unit was removed. The sleeve was modified with our modification kit. This is the bottom pan block off piece, and then this is the baffle extender in the appropriate selection position. And now this unit will be installed in the existing sleeve. The adapter will tie right into that previous First Company sleeve, and we'll have a successful installation. And this is the complete picture. Nice straight ductwork, drain line off to the right-hand side of the unit. You can also see the support stands built. We provide the brackets in the support kit when you're replacing a First Company unit, 9K and 12K unit. We have this option available to many contractors on the market that are looking for swapping out First Company units and using our Friedrich models in its place. This is a very nice installation. Plenty of access to the front to get to the filter and the other control components. Nice clean closet, full access door opening. And this actually has a wireless EMR or EMWRT2 thermostat in place. This is another project here showing a nice access panel, full closet, nice platform, block wall construction. In this image here, you can actually see the contractor put sheet metal flooring on the platform so that you disconnect the drain line and you can basically slide the unit around inside this closet opening or get it to the edge to a mechanical cart or out for service in that regard. You can see the concrete block, nice sealed closet, nice clean straight duct connection, disconnect box on the right hand side for your proper disconnect power supply. This one here is another left-hand installation, drain line coming off underneath, unit mounted on the unistrut system that they constructed, and then the access panel here. If you notice here, the Friedrich access panel has this black gasket. That gasket material, when closed against the drywall, creates an airtight seal, so the air infiltration to the closet is through the filter. You can either use the filter access at the door panel or remain with the filter at the unit. That's a field option that you can choose for yourself or your building owner. maintenance staff or whoever can choose for themselves as well. The filter at the unit and the filter in the door are not the same size, so that needs to be taken into account when doing your basic maintenance on that equipment, on what appropriate filter size and location you want to use. But either filter location is acceptable. And then one here on the overall view of the unit installed with, when you're sealing the ductwork around the top of the plenum or top of the takeoff of the unit, make sure that you're careful with any kind of duct sealant, mastic, screws, tape, whatever, because there are access panel screws that can be difficult to get to in the event that you need to service the top of the unit. So that's something that, from being in the field, I know that we can get a little aggressive with the mud and slap it on all the way around the top here, and it makes it trouble for the guy coming behind you to service the unit or get the unit in and out. Now moving on to wiring and electrical specifications. As mentioned previous, all field wiring must comply with the National Electrical Code. Also, any local and state codes would take precedent. If your local building inspector or county or whatever province you're in has specific code requirements related to their particular reasoning or acceptance or interpretation of the National Mechanical Code or mechanical codes otherwise stated, the higher governing code would take precedent for approval. Make sure that you always check the unit tab for the electrical rating, making sure that you're not putting a 208 volt or 230 volt unit in place of a 265 volt, and vice versa, and making sure that you are working with single phase voltage and not three-phase voltage. And then install a single branch unit. The unit should never be connected on a shared breaker. Obviously, these are electrical supplied air conditioning package units, which do have electric heaters in them. And in the wintertime, they will draw power and excessive amperage that if they are shared, you will trip breakers or create other electrical issues. Optional power surge arresters may be used to help protect the single circuit. If you were going to install a surge protector on the unit, I recommend doing it at the disconnect and not in the unit itself. That will help protect the circuit overall. That's just a professional recommendation, personal opinion. Based on the fuse circuit breaker and disconnect size, we're looking at a 2.5 kilowatt versus a 15 amp breaker, 3.4 kilowatt versus a 20 amp breaker, 5.0 kilowatt versus a 30 amp breaker. And on the 24K units only, we have the options of a 7.5 kilowatt at a 40 amp breaker size and a whopping 10 kilowatt at a 50 amp breaker size. Note that all units must be grounded completely through from the branch circuit, and to make sure that the correct wiring size is used in accordance with the amp rating. In the event that you have to pull a new wire run to match the breaker size and the heater size, it's always recommended to do so. The thermostat connections are 24 volts and must be operated with a 24 volt thermostat. These are standard 24 volt units. They do not operate under any kind of DC voltage or any kind of multi-phase voltages or anything like that. Must be single stage cooling or single stage heat for cool with electric heat pump models, and the heat pumps must have a terminal B, which control the reversing valve connection. You can have the option of a single or dual feed fan switch, but do not use a dual stage heat pump thermostat. The Vert-I-Pak's electronic control automatically decides heat pump operation or electric heat operation. In the event that there's a long-term call for heat and the heat pump itself is not maintaining temperature in the room, the control will drop out the heat pump and energize the electric strip. The electric strip and the heat pump will never run together simultaneously at the same time. And there brings us to the controls and connectivity. We have several versions of thermostats that are options for you. The RT7, the RT7P, which would give you a 7-day programmable capability. We have the WRT2, and then we have the energy management, either WRT2 or RT2 direct hardwired. And you can use that in conjunction with our energy management system for your building management controls. And as described below, the various connections and capability of the thermostats. Standard accessories that are options for you. The louvers are a big one because we can actually special order and color code your louvers to your building. That you can get with the sales management team to decide what color codes, and they can, if you can provide them color swatches, they can definitely lead you in that path down the direction of getting your louvers color coded to match your building exterior. Then the standard grill, anodized aluminum. Then the wall plenum kits, as mentioned earlier, we do have the 8-inch wall plenum kit, which is a 5 to 8-inch exterior wall. And then we have the 14 kit, which is from an 8-inch wall to a 14 thick exterior wall. And then the new drain pan kit is the VPDP2, which is definitely required on the VHA 18 and the VHA 24. Previous model number on that was the VDP1. Then the return access panels for left swing, return access panels for right swing. The minimum free area opening is 250 square inches. That's the opening that we mentioned that you can install the air filter in the door if you choose. And then our first company sleeve adapter, which was shown in the images, compatible with models VHA 09 and VHA 12 for transitioning from a first company unit to a Friedrich unit. Now on to troubleshooting. What skills are important for good troubleshooting? Someone who has knowledge of the equipment, for starters. Obviously, we want to train professional. Someone who has knowledge of HVAC and mechanical training. So if you're a building engineer, maintenance technician, electrical contractor, HVAC certified mechanic, all of those good top quality people, you would qualify to assist in troubleshooting. Someone who uses reliable testing instrument and tools of the trade and the industry standards, knowledge of how to use those tools. An important skill is someone who looks through the haystack to find the needle. Little off the cuff nomenclature here, but don't give up on trying to do some basic troubleshooting, trying to find that situation that occurred, looking back in the history of the equipment and seeing a pattern, figuring out what the problem is. Someone who's willing to follow directions and industry safety guidelines. That's a positive attitude to have, making sure that manufacturers' recommendations are followed and that industry safety standards not only protect you, the property owner, and the guest or resident. Someone who's open-minded with a good attitude. Not that we don't come across and have a bad day every now and then, but sometimes it's always good to approach things with a fresh, clean set of eyes in some respects. Someone who practices patience, and I like this one, takes their time and uses the rule-out method, systematically trying to break down the problem and figure out, start to finish, the order and sequence of operation that occurred and where the break is, and figuring out what needs to move forward to correct the problem. And my favorite, someone who just has good old-fashioned luck sometimes. Usually that gets a laugh. Trying to figure out, sometimes you just hit the nail on the head, or you're just lucky enough that the unit customer says, hey, I've got a problem with your unit. It's not working. You go there, it's working fine, and then all of a sudden you walk away, close the door, and then, hey, now it starts making noise again. So it's a tough one to find, and once again, you find that needle in the haystack. Some basic tools that I always recommend having on hand to do the troubleshooting that we require. Oftentimes we'll ask for voltage readings, ohms readings, sensor readings, supply voltage readings. It's good to have a good quality multimeter. Not brand specific here to the image, but clamp meter, test leads, etc. Digital refrigerant gauges are also a professional choice. Standard analog gauges basically get the same pressure readings done without all the bells and whistles. And then your basic hand tools are oftentimes good to have on hand when troubleshooting equipment. This is a list of error codes. Reading from the top, our display has 4 digits. The left 2 digits indicate the actual error code, which is listed here on the left, and a description of the error code related to that number. And then the action or recommended setting on how to correct the error. The on-off icon shows of these digits whether or not it's a current code or whether or not, yes, getting ahead of myself, my apologies. That these digits indicate the current state of the code. The next 2 numbers, the right 2 digits, show the count, how many occurrences that the code has occurred. So for example, you would see a 0158. So 158, someone says, hey, I see 158 on my screen. Oftentimes that's probably 0158 times. That's an odd code to have that many times, but it would record that up to 99 occurrences. And then the display also shows a wrench icon, which will time out and illuminate when basic maintenance is required based on hours of operation. And this is also supplied in our IOM as well for reference. Some additional tools for cleaning coils, cleaning the unit, washing things down. Images here: backpack sprayer, hand pump, coil cleaner. CO2 guns for flush and drain lines. These are some unique tools to the trade. Some of you may or may not be familiar with them. Fin coil brush for straightening damaged coils or getting in between to try to straighten those coils. Keeping the coils nice and clean, keeping the airflow moving through, keeps the efficiency of the equipment up and benefits the overall operation of the equipment. Now for top quality product, industry leading manufacturer, and you. This would be leaving to open for discussion. And I think Jared's going to take back over here because we'd like you to remember, don't forget us on social media.
That's right, Chris. As we wait for some questions to come in, sounds like I got a little bit of feedback. Remind everybody to like, share, and subscribe. Friedrich is active on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as YouTube. Chris, we do have a couple questions that are coming in the meeting chat. First one from Jim Jones, a Friedrich guy. Can you use both filters, one being a pre-filter, or would that be too restrictive on airflow? And it looks like one of our product managers has already responded to that question in the group chat. He said, only filter either the unit or the door, not both. Both filters could be too restrictive in a majority of cases. Looks like we have another question in the chat, also from Jim. Do you have to use Cat5 wire with VPAK thermostat communication, or is regular thermostat wire okay? Has also been answered in the chat by Mr. Kottner, who says that standard thermostat wire for thermostats with VPAK, standard T-stat wire for thermostats with VPAK. So Cat5 not always required. Just as a reminder, if you have any additional questions, you can remove the mute from your microphone by highlighting your cursor over Microsoft Teams and deselecting the microphone to unmute, or you can type questions into our chat box in the group chat. I will give a minute for additional questions. Chris, it looks like no additional questions. We'll do a quick audio check. 3, 2, 1 on questions. No hands are being raised. No additional questions being typed into the meeting chat. With that, I want to say thanks to Mr. Palmer. Great presentation today on Vert-I-Pak basic installation and service. For those of you who attended, I want to say thanks for taking time out of your very busy day to attend Friedrich product training. Thank you. Have a great day, and we will make sure that we get this presentation posted and send out links for available reference in the future. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Great job, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I still see a lot of folks on. I'm going to continue to hang out for just a minute with a live link here and see if we have any additional questions. Chris, if you want to hang out, I've asked him if you want to hang out as well. Keep us live. I'll open it up. Continue to leave an open mic here for any additional questions for just a few minutes. It looks like most folks are jumping out of the webinar now. So mics are still live. If anybody's listening and is contemplating a final question, we are here. One final open mic. No questions, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Cotner. Thank you guys for hanging out. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Great presentation. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.